Have you ever felt a presence in a silent room or a sudden, inexplicable chill that had nothing to do with the temperature? Have you ever wondered if the whispers of ancient tales, stories of beings made of smokeless fire and knowledge that could bend reality, hold a sliver of truth? Humanity walks upon a stage, believing itself to be the sole actor, yet beneath the floorboards and behind the curtains, older dramas unfold. We are surrounded by a world unseen, a reality teeming with forces and intelligences that existed long before our first ancestor drew breath. This is not the realm of fantasy, but the landscape of forgotten wisdom, of knowledge so potent it was deemed forbidden. It is the story of magic, not as a parlor trick, but as a primal force, a secret language of creation that can be used to build or to destroy. Tonight, we journey together into the heart of this mystery. We will pull back the veil that separates the seen from the unseen, guided by the lamp of ancient Islamic tradition. We will uncover the stories of the first masters of this world, the Jinn, and the forbidden arts they wielded. We will contrast their corrupting power with the divine miracles granted to the prophets and explore the subtle protective rituals that have been passed down through generations to shield the soul from harm. This is a quest to understand not just what is forbidden, but why. It is an exploration into the nature of power, the origins of evil, and the divine protection that is promised to those who seek it with a pure heart. Forget what you think you know, and open your mind to the echoes of a truth that has been waiting in the shadows to be heard. Long before the world knew the footsteps of Adam, it was not empty. It was a vibrant, thriving domain, ruled by a civilization of beings forged not from clay, but from the essence of smokeless fire. These were the Jinn, the first inhabitants of Earth to be gifted with free will. Allah had granted them incredible power, long lives, and a profound intelligence. They built glorious cities that pierced the sky, empires that spanned deserts and forests now lost to time, and they possessed a technology so advanced it would seem like magic to us today. Their world was one of fire and freedom, a testament to the creative power of their maker. In their early days, they lived in obedience, worshipping Allah with sincerity, and the earth was a realm of peace under their guardianship. But with great power comes a great test. Over millennia, a poison began to seep into their hearts: pride. They looked at their strength, their creations, their long lives, and they fell in love with themselves. Power gave rise to arrogance, arrogance to jealousy, and jealousy to corruption. The voices that once rose in remembrance of God were now drowned out by the sounds of war, bloodshed, and the whispers of forbidden knowledge. They began to fight amongst themselves, tribe against tribe, king against king. Some declared themselves gods, enslaving their own kind and demanding worship. They delved into dark arts, seeking to unlock the secrets of the unseen and bend the world to their will. Magic became their currency, performed in secret chambers, used to open doorways to realms that should have remained sealed. The earth itself groaned under the weight of their oppression, and the cries of the innocent rose to the heavens. This was the first great corruption. It was a storm of rebellion so vast and destructive that the angels, witnessing it from above, feared it could happen again. It was this memory that prompted their question to Allah when He announced the creation of humanity. Will you place upon it one who will spread corruption and shed blood? They were not questioning God's wisdom. They were remembering the terrible war that had purified the earth once before. For in the midst of the Jinn's chaos, one among them, Azazel, stood apart in his devotion. He was honored by the angels for his obedience, while his people drowned in sin. And it was this Azazel, whom Allah commanded to lead a celestial army of angels to cleanse the earth. The battle that followed was cataclysmic. Light collided with fire, divine order against chaotic magic. The Jinn kings and their empires of ash were shattered, their temples broken, and their sorcery silenced. The corrupt survivors were driven into the depths of the earth, into hidden realms and desolate places, their age of dominion brought to a final, definitive end. Azazel returned, victorious and honored. He believed his loyalty had elevated him above all others, but his heart harbored the first seed of the very pride he had been sent to destroy. And his true test was yet to come. It would not be a test of war, but of humility. When Allah fashioned Adam from clay and commanded all to prostrate, the angels obeyed without question. But Azazel, the great warrior, the devoted worshipper, refused. "I am better than him," he declared. "You created me from fire, and him from clay." In that single moment of arrogance, millennia of worship turned to dust. Azazel was cast out, his name changed to Iblis, the accursed. He did not ask for forgiveness. He asked for time. Time to prove that this new creation, humanity, was weak and ungrateful. And his primary weapon in this eternal war would be the very tool that led to his own people's downfall: forbidden knowledge, deception, and magic. The sacred scriptures acknowledge the reality of this dark art. The Quran speaks directly to its origins in the time of Prophet Solomon, a king who was granted unprecedented power over not only humanity, but also the jinn and the forces of nature. After his death, rebellious demons sought to corrupt his legacy. As Surah Al-Baqarah explains, they followed what the devils used to recite during the reign of Suleiman. It was not Suleiman who disbelieved, but the devils disbelieved, teaching people magic and that which was revealed to the two angels in Babylon, Harut and Marut. This verse is a profound key to understanding the nature of forbidden magic. It was a knowledge sent down as a trial, a test of faith. The angels Harut and Marut would explicitly warn anyone who came to them, "We are but a trial, so do not disbelieve." Yet people chose to learn. They learned arts that could sow discord, that could separate a man from his wife. The verse concludes with a stark warning. They learned what harmed them, not what benefited them, and they knew that the one who engaged in it would have no share of goodness in the hereafter. This is the essence of forbidden magic, or seer. It is knowledge used to cause harm, to manipulate free will, and to subvert the natural order established by the divine. It is an act of rebellion, an alliance with the forces of darkness represented by Iblis and the disbelieving jinn. It stands in stark contrast to the divine power wielded by the prophets. When Prophet Isa, Jesus, performed miracles, they were not of his own power. He molded a bird from clay and breathed into it, and by Allah's permission, it became a living bird. He healed the sick and raised the dead, again, only by Allah's permission. These were signs, or ayat, meant to guide people towards God, not to grant the prophet personal power. The corrupt, however, could not see the difference. When faced with these clear miracles, they accused him of the very thing they practiced. "You are a sorcerer," they claimed, unable to distinguish a divine sign from a demonic trick. The power of a prophet comes from submission and benefits humanity. The power of a sorcerer comes from rebellion and harms it. While the path of the sorcerer leads to darkness, there exists another path of hidden knowledge, one that leads towards the light. This is the path of the mystic, the Sufi, who seeks not to control the world, but to understand its divine secrets. For sages like Ibn Arabi and Mevlana Rumi, the entire universe is a manifestation of divine music. Ibn Arabi taught that creation itself began with the first divine sound, the command be, kun, and every rhythm and vibration in the cosmos is an echo of that original command. For these mystics, music and sound, when used correctly, are not a distraction, but a sacred tool. The Sufi practice of sema, the whirling dance, is not mere entertainment. It is the soul's response to the call of the divine. Rumi described the mournful cry of the reed flute as the sound of the soul lamenting its separation from its divine origin. This divine magic is the knowledge of the heart. It recognizes that true power is not in incantations and spells, but in purifying the soul to become a clear mirror for the light of God. Imam Ghazali, one of Islam's greatest scholars, laid out this nuanced understanding. He argued that a sound or an act is not forbidden in itself. Its ruling depends entirely on the intention behind it and the effect it has on the heart. Music that incites lust or leads one away from God is forbidden. But for one whose heart is filled with the love of Allah, a beautiful melody that awakens noble emotions and deepens their remembrance becomes a recommended act, a vehicle for spiritual ascent. This is the higher knowledge, the science of the soul. It is the understanding that every element of creation, from the human voice to the simplest grain of salt, can be a tool for connecting with the divine, or a veil that hides us from it. This brings us from the celestial and philosophical to the earthly and practical. If a world of unseen forces, both benevolent and malevolent, truly exists, how does one navigate it? Ancient wisdom, validated by generations of practice, provides a shield. One of the most powerful and universal tools for spiritual purification and protection is something found in every home: salt. Across civilizations, from ancient Egypt to Mesopotamia, salt was seen as sacred, a substance that could not only preserve food, but also purify the soul and ward off evil. This belief is profoundly echoed within Islamic folk traditions. For centuries, Muslim families have used salt as a physical means to establish a spiritual boundary. The logic is both spiritual and deeply symbolic. Salt is a purifier. Scientifically, it creates an environment hostile to decay-causing microbes. Spiritually, it is believed to do the same for negative energies and malevolent spirits. A common practice, passed down through generations, is to place salt, often mixed with water over which Quranic verses have been recited, in the corners of a new home or across its threshold. This act is a declaration. This space is consecrated, protected by the name of Allah, and no harm shall enter. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that when a person enters his home mentioning the name of Allah, Shaitan says to his followers, "You have no place to stay and no supper." The salt acts as a physical anchor for this spiritual pronouncement. Practitioners of Ruqyah, the Islamic practice of healing through Quranic recitation, frequently employ salt as a tool to help break spells and expel Jinn. A documented method involves reciting key chapters of the Quran, such as Al-Fatiha, Ayat al-Kursi, Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and An-Nas 7 times each over a container of salt, imbuing it with the blessed frequency of the divine word. This blessed salt is then used in food or bathing, believed to cleanse the individual from the inside out and fortify them against spiritual attack. The veil between our world and the next is at its thinnest at the moments of birth and death. It is here that the reality of the unseen becomes most palpable. Eminikaya, a Muslim Ghasala, one who performs the sacred duty of washing the dead, has spent decades at this threshold. Her experiences are a chilling and beautiful testament to the unseen world. She has washed bodies from which a beautiful, unearthly fragrance emanated, a scent so powerful that even non-Muslim hospital nurses noticed and asked if she had sprayed perfume. She speaks of a moment of profound mystery when, during the final moments of a person's life, A loud, disruptive scream from the family seemed to disturb the departing soul, causing it to return for a moment before leaving again in peace and quiet. These are not superstitions. They are the lived experiences of those who work at the boundary of life and death. They tell us that our actions, our words, and even the spiritual state of our environment have a real and tangible impact on the soul. The deceased, she says, are not to be feared. It is the living who can cause harm. Her duty is to prepare the body with respect, ensuring it is shrouded in purity for its final journey. A physical act of cleansing that mirrors the spiritual cleansing we must all undertake. So, what is the forbidden knowledge? It is the recognition that we are not alone in the universe, and that our actions have consequences in realms beyond our sight. The path of the sorcerer, the path of Iblis, is to seek this knowledge for power, for control, for the inflation of the ego. It is a path that begins with pride and ends in destruction, as it did for the first civilization of Jinn. The divine path, the path of the prophets and the mystics, is to seek knowledge for purification, for submission, for a deeper connection to the Creator. This path recognizes that the universe is filled with signs and secrets, but their purpose is not to be manipulated for selfish gain, but to be understood as a testament to the majesty of the one who created them. The true protection from dark magic is not a counterspell, but a fortified heart. It is a heart strengthened by remembrance, dhikr, shielded by sincere prayer, and purified by living in accordance with the divine will. The forbidden knowledge warns us of the dangers that lurk in the shadows, but the sacred knowledge gives us the light by which to walk safely through them. The choice of which to pursue lies within each of us. In the end, our journey through the shadows of forbidden knowledge leads us to a simple, profound truth. The universe is far more mysterious and alive than our modern world admits. It is woven with seen and unseen threads, and there are indeed powers and intelligences that operate beyond our immediate senses. The greatest magic is not found in ancient grimoires or secret incantations designed to bend the will of spirits. That is the path of pride and illusion, the path that led to the ruin of the Jinn and the fall of Iblis. It is a quest for power over others that ultimately leads to enslavement, to one's own ego, and to the dark forces one seeks to command. The true secret, the most potent knowledge, is the opposite. It is the path of submission, of aligning oneself with the cosmic harmony of the divine. It is the wisdom of the prophets who wielded divine power not for themselves, but as a sign to guide humanity back to its source. It is the insight of the mystics who hear the music of creation in the cry of a flute and see the reflection of God in a purified heart. The ultimate protection against darkness is not a more powerful darkness, but light. It is the light of faith, the purity of intention, and the shield of remembrance. A simple grain of salt, blessed by the word of God, becomes a more powerful ward than any demonic pact, because its strength comes not from itself, but from the one who is the source of all power. Let us not fear the shadows, but rather, let us strive to be bearers of light. Let us seek the knowledge that humbles, not the knowledge that inflates. For in humility we find safety, in remembrance we find peace, and in submission to the divine we find a power that no forbidden art can ever overcome. This is the ultimate truth hidden in plain sight, the sacred knowledge that sets the soul free. If this reflection touched your heart and expanded your understanding, join our community for more journeys in search of the truth hidden in history and the human soul. On our channel, we explore the great questions of life. We believe that the wisdom we revive from ancestral sources can strengthen your spirit. Your support is vital. We ask that you subscribe, share, like, and comment. This helps us reach more seekers of truth. Your feedback inspires us. May peace and light be with all of you. May we find wisdom and strength on our journey. Until the next video.